and I'm preaching to the choir here, is the sense of discovery, and that requires empathy. So 2, 3 years ago, I was on a TV show before Shark Tank called The Toy Box. I was one of the finalists with this 5-in-1 toy that I made my son and daughter, which was essentially one ball and one bat that you could take to the park and play 5 sports. And it wasn't just a matter of convenience. It was you were able to mash up the sports. You could play miniature golf while having the soccer ball halves and the football halves and the red ring, which is a frisbee that pops out, as your miniature golf course. And really, so the point I'm trying to make is to be a great inventor, and it's something that I think the jury is out, whether you're born with it or whether you can learn it. I think you can learn it. It takes practice, but you have to be empathetic. So before Qualcomm, where I brainstormed for thousands of hours with strangers building that innovation club, had I been with my son and he wanted to kick the football because I didn't bring a soccer ball, I would have just said, tough cookies, next time I'll bring the soccer ball. But having practiced brainstorming and working with and being more empathetic, I saw that as an opportunity of why doesn't someone make a football that can also be a soccer ball? So I think step one is being empathetic, is feeling other people's pain, is practicing when you see a problem, realizing that that's an opportunity. And 99.9% of people don't see a problem as an opportunity, they just see it as a nuisance. But a good inventor sees everything that bothers him as an opportunity. In fact, the angrier you are, or the more frustrated you get, or the more emotional you get, I feel the better inventor you'll be, because you're gonna pick up on these signals. Now, by the way, these slides, I created them for an annual conference in San Diego. It's called San Diego Startup Week. It's a 3-day event. In fact, if you guys could make it out post-COVID, it's really a great event. Point is, it was a workshop that I ran. For the sake of our Zoom call today, we're not gonna break out into small groups and do these exercises, but normally with the team, we would sit there and actually take an idea in small teams and go through these 22 steps. But for today's Zoom call, we'll skip the workshop activities. So after I come up with an idea, and my recommendation would be, is to forget about it, right? Give yourself a 2-week cooling off period. Give it 2 weeks before you kind of revisit it, because maybe this has happened to you guys too, but you have this aha moment. You're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if? And then you go on, you get the clay, the cardboard, the duct tape, or you go on Amazon and you buy the parts and you start prototyping it and you start thinking about it. And then it's like, then after a while you lose interest, let's say, because it happens. I'm saying lose interest first. If after 2 weeks it's still on the top of your mind, you've passed the first test. So that's what I like to do. No matter how excited I get of stuffing footballs inside soccer balls, I'm gonna like sit on it for 2 weeks and see if I naturally am drawn to doing it. So that'd be my recommendation. And by the way, in the upper right-hand corner of the slides, you're gonna see this little emblem that says kill it or continue. And that's true for every single point of this process. At every single point, you should be asking yourself, is this the best use of my time? Should I be working on this, or should I be working on the other ideas? And we'll talk about that in a couple slides down. So if after 2 weeks you're still excited, then it's on, baby. It's time to take that idea, that napkin, that thing you sketched on a napkin, or that problem you want to solve, and start building a proof of concept. You've kind of gone through the cooling off period, if you will. And so that's when it's time to build a proof of concept. So the proof of concept I built for Aryabal, the one that was on the toy box, and I ended up doing a deal with Damon John of Shark Tank outside of Shark Tank, was, you can see the proof of concept. It was, why doesn't someone make a football where you can take those pointy things off and you're left with a round ball that you can kick? So I went to Toys R Us, which sadly I think is in bankruptcy, bought a foam ball, bought a foam football, carved them out, stuck it together, took it to the park, and I started to learn the process of this one is not the best way. Oops, the image on the left with the bigger soccer ball isn't right. The other image where the soccer ball is fully nested inside the football, that's not the right way. In fact, you know what? Let's flip it on its head. let's put the football inside the soccer ball. Point of the story is you got to sit down at some point, and you've all done it, is you build a proof of concept. I wouldn't even call it a prototype because it's just, again, glue, duct tape, cardboard, metal, whatever you can find to kind of put something together. Just so you can start thinking through the problem, because that's what you're doing. You're an engineer, you're building something, and you're trying to find, you're taking the vision in your head of how you think it should work, and then bringing it into the physical world, and you're realizing, no, that's not how it's going to work due to material science or gravity or what have you. So just you build a proof of concept. And then what I like to do, and again, your mileage may vary, is I like to give this baby a name. I want to be able to like kind of see it in the marketplace. That helps keep me motivated. So in the case of this idea that I had, which was, why can't I just attach a weight to the bottom of my shirt after it's come out of the dryer so I don't have to iron it? In fact, why don't I just take 2 metal rods and attach it to a potato chip clip and just stick it to the bottom of my shirt, and then just kind of mist the shirt with water, and 3 hours later, the shirt is wrinkle free. That's something I prototyped. I loved it. My friends loved it. And so I wanted to give it a name and a tagline, a mantra, to kind of make it feel real. Because once you write it down, it's no longer just in your head or just a prototype on a desk. It's now like a company. It's called Pressed. Throw away your iron. So step 3 in the process for me is branding. I like to brand early. And so if this was a workshop, we would sit down and we kind of do some exercises for fun, look up domain names, do a trademark search, and ask yourself, do you want this to be, are you going to name the website the product name, or are you going to build a company that has multiple products? So in my case, while I have a website called, let's say, the Tooth Diary, I also have a website called the Brilliant Company, where under the Brilliant Company is where I keep all the ideas, which helps me when I reach out to folks to license it or to, to others. And so, I like to do the branding early. In this case, it's a little doll that I made, whereby the problem it solves is my wife and I were losing the little notes that our kids would write for the teeth that would that our children would lose. And so we had a drawer, and you might be the kind of the same household. There's a drawer filled with like baby teeth and notes, and you don't want to throw it away because it's like, a keepsake, but it's also gross and it's just a mess. So what do? So I made this doll where you can keep the tooth that your child lost and the note that he or she wrote inside the tube, and the child would leave the tube under their pillow. The tooth fairy comes, takes the tube, it's one set. Once all 20 tubes are gone, the child can ask for their keepsakes back. So the tooth fairy brings back those 20 tubes, and then the child puts it back inside his or her doll, and then gives grandma or mom or dad, the doll with all the keepsakes. It's like a perfect baby shower gift, or for birthdays. Point is, I branded it early. I reserved the URL. I did a trademark search, and now it's called the Tooth Diary, and that kept me motivated to continue prototyping it. So I like to do the branding really early. Costs nothing. I'm not saying spend money. I'm just saying be creative and give your baby a name. So then we get to step 4, something that I'm sure you all have done as well, which is user studies, right? You think your idea is great. I may think it's great, but you really got to take it out to the real world. And before we get into patents and all, certainly you're going to take it to your friends and family first. And what I personally like to do is I like to go through, I've created like 3 categories of my friends. And so group A, next time we're all together at a bar or restaurant, I'll tell them the idea of, hey, I have this doll that I made for kids that keeps track of the notes and the baby teeth inside each of these 20 tubes. And I get their feedback, especially, and in this case, because it's maybe more for young kids or for moms, I'll put that in group A. Group B, I will actually show them the idea. And in this case, it'll be maybe something I made out of clay or cardboard or what have you, just so they can kind of better gauge what it is I'm talking about. And then the third user study that I do, again, friends and family, again, we're not spending any money here, well, at this point I go on Fiverr, or there's other websites, or it's something maybe you can learn yourself, and you can do this for like, honestly, under $100, is you just get like a 3D rendered image, very rough idea of what this product would look like. So in the case of my current invention, Tilted, which is something you can see there, it's a little attachment you stick to the bottom of your phone, and it kind of supports your pinky. So that way you can hold your phone more comfortably. There's the pop socket, which you might be familiar with, which is like a plunger that pops out. This is a different way. This is something that flips down to hold your pinky. Point of the story is, literally for like, I think $35, I found someone who was able to quickly model. I'm not talking CAD drawings that we're gonna use for tooling. I just mean like a simple 3D render that I can Photoshop on some phones and then show group C. Hey guys, this is kind of what I'm thinking about. And then once I have data from group A, B, and C, then I start to realize, okay, is this worth pursuing? And the other question I ask them is not, do you like it, do you not like it? Because, it's how much would you pay for it? If you didn't know me and you saw this in a store, what is the pushback price? And so up to this point, we've spent maybe $100 on Fiverr to come up with like a 3D render that we can show group C. Group B is the prototype. Group A, you're just telling them the idea. And so this is where you kind of decide, am I going to move forward or not? The other thing that I like to do early, really early, and these numbers will kind of become kind of back of the envelope. You'll know them pretty soon. You'll have them memorized. But what is it going to cost me to ship it from Amazon? Because as product developers, ultimately, that's where you're going to end up, right? That's the holy grail, is the first page of Amazon if someone types, that product name. And this is something I didn't do with Aryaball, which I found out later, but essentially is how expensive it is to ship larger items. So that soccer ball, baseball bat that you saw, that was, expensive to ship. Now, mind you, I'm talking about shipping from, let's say, overseas, if you choose to go overseas, to the US. And, in the case of the soccer ball with the bat, it was $2 per item. In the case of the phone holder, it's around 3 cents to 10 cents. And so point is, there's a calculator you can use, CDM calculator. You put in the size of your product. It tells you how many you can fit on a 20-foot container. And based on how many items you can put in a container, let's say, in this case, 931 of my soccer balls, which are 12 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch, and a container from overseas to the port of Long Beach, where Amazon has a location, is around 1,600. So if you do the math, you figure out how much it's going to cost to ship it. The next thing is, okay, great, I've shipped it to, so now it's in my a warehouse. How much is it going to cost to ship this to the customers? So if you're doing the phone holder, it's very inexpensive. If it's the case of the soccer ball, it could be more. But Amazon has a calculator that maybe you're already familiar with, where you put in the size of your product. In this case, I put in something called a pop socket, which is the size, roughly the size of my phone holder. And it kind of tells me that, yeah, at the end of the day, Amazon's going to take $5. So it's like, wait, if Amazon takes $5 and it costs me another $2.50 to make, I'm already out $7.50. So it's going to be really hard to sell this for $9.99 because I still haven't even considered the marketing expense. So I'm not saying that should be a reason to kill an idea, but I just wanted to share with you that you kind of need to know what your shipping costs, are to get it to your factory, to your warehouse, and then from your warehouse to your customer. And then if you go with Amazon, there's also the storage fee, right? So in the case of my soccer ball, which is 12 inch by 12 inch by 15, long story short, it's going to be about $1 per month while, it's sitting there in inventory. And as you start getting closer to, Q4, it's going to cost me $3 per ball per month to keep it in Amazon. And if I've over ordered and I'm sitting on, 1,000 soccer balls that aren't selling, it's 3,000 a month. So again, these are numbers that I like to have before I decide if I'm going to pursue an idea. So just kind of keep that in mind. So now we get to like the first of many points where you decide to kill it or quit. And one thing that I feel, you guys may disagree, or maybe we're all in alignment, is quitting. Normally when you use the word quitting, it doesn't sound good, right? Like you quit math class, or you quit English class or science class. I'm not talking about like that, although maybe that's okay too, because if you follow your passion, you could be more successful. In this case, I'm talking about quitting for product developers, which is, in my case, it's a badge of honor. So when I tell people I've quit 17 times, that's like 17 times I cut my losses, if you will, and to quickly get to the one that will be successful. So my advice for all of you is, don't feel bad if you cut and run. It shows that you're humble enough to not tie yourself to a product and try to make it successful to prove you're successful. It shows that you're detached and you're sensible about it, and you're disciplined, and you're saving your ammunition for the right opportunity. So I'll just take a quick pause, and maybe we'll answer one or two questions if there are any, just so I don't kind of keep going. But I'd like to see if there's any questions at this point.
Let's see. I'm kind of looking at the chat right now, and there's no questions coming up in the chat. Is there anyone that would like to unmute themselves? Let's see, because Babak, I can't really see because your screen is on. Okay, if somebody would like to unmute themselves, oh, there we go. Okay, let's look at the gallery view. If you have a question, it looks like Keith has a question.
Yeah, I'm looking at, it seems like you're attacking this from an entrepreneurial standpoint, where you're going to take your idea and venture it. And I'm wondering if how much of this information do we need if we're just going to go to a licensee and just license it and let them figure out all the logistics of how to get into the customer's hands.
You're absolutely right, Keith. And in fact, I think my next slide is exactly that. It's about licensing. And the only reason I talk about branding and knowing some of your costs early is just to kind of help you, or to decide, is this something I do want to take to market myself because I think the profit margins are good, or is this something that is best for licensing? So it's one of those things where if you take it to group A, group B, group C, and let's assume they all love it, let's assume they tell you the pushback price is, let's say, $50, and let's say after you're doing a little bit of your cost calculations, you see that there's a healthy profit margin, that's going to help you decide whether you should license or take to market. But you're absolutely right. Licensing is a fantastic way, and I literally think that's my next slide.
Okay, I'm looking through the group, and if anybody else has a question, please go ahead and raise your hand. Let's see, Nikki Galliano.
Hi, how you doing? Just a quick question. Will you be covering, so I have an idea for a device that actually has to use other technology, and I've been waiting for about 5 to 7 years for that technology to be available, and I finally found that it was available now. So will you be covering how to go to companies that actually have that technology and how to approach them? Like, I'd like to use that technology in a device.
Yeah, that's a great question, Nikki. I won't be, but we can certainly talk afterwards.
Okay, great.
You can shoot me an email and we can set up a time to call and to talk. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Okay.
Let's see, Tony, did you have a question? You'd have to unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
No, I don't have a question. Sorry, I'm just testing.
Oh, okay. Okay. I saw your hand kind of go like this. I thought maybe you had a question. Okay, I'm going to skim over everybody one more time. I don't see that there's any other questions right now.
Okay.
So Babak, if you want to go back to your screen.
Just want to give folks a chance. Thank you for the question. So let's talk about protection. And I think, Keith, this is important before we get to the licensing part. And And so I'm sure you guys in your group have talked about this. We talk about it in our San Diego group all the time. You know, the beauty of provisional patents. It's something that was passed, I think, under the Bill Clinton administration. I think it's been fantastic for entrepreneurs and inventors, where literally you can draft your own. And again, talk to a patent attorney. I'm not a patent attorney. I can just tell you what's kind of worked for me so far. But again, through my previous, where I work at Qualcomm and EcoATM, I've had the privilege of working with patent attorneys, and I have over 100 patents, so I might have more experience than you. The point is, I like to draft my own provisionals, which is essentially just write down what the idea is, have some diagrams, just describe it. You don't have to have the claim set, which is really the key part. And for $135, you can file it. So you may want to consult with an attorney first. I've done that already. And they've reviewed some of my provisionals, and they've kind of given me the green light to continue filing provisionals, and that's what I do. So I like the provisional patents. As you might already know, it gives you 1 year of protection to be able to speak more freely about your idea, especially if you go down the licensing route. And because Group A, Group B, Group C are friends and family, they're not going to rip you off. But as you start kind of opening up the scope and you know, talking to companies, you know, in a case like Nikki, before you would reach out to a company, you may want to you know, consider a provisional. But so that's what I like to do if I really am passionate about the idea. And now let's talk about licensing. Licensing is a fantastic way for inventors to let someone else do the heavy lifting, and you know, you just open up a check at the end of every month. There's some pros and cons to licensing. Certainly, if you want to go for the journey, if it's kind of a lifestyle that you want to have to be an entrepreneur, if you look forward to, you know, kind of building the website and getting inventory and selling it and working with customers and keeping, as far as percentage-wise, the lion's share of the profits, and you like to be in control, you know, going your own way, starting your own business is the route I would recommend. For Tilted, my phone holder, I'm choosing to do it myself because my gut tells me I can be successful at it, and I just want to go along for the journey, and I want to keep most of the profits. And again, I can always license it later. But licensing obviously is a great route. It's you don't put in any more money. You just got to work the phones, right? You create a sell sheet, you create a little video, and you got to work the phones, work your network, especially through LinkedIn. I like to reach out to the people on LinkedIn that are in the sales department, because if you can get the sales guys excited, they will then put pressure on the product managers to take a look at your ideas. So I'll go on LinkedIn and I'll do a search for, like, I have 3 inventions that are related to fitness, athletics, like the Lululemon, Athletica, those types of companies. So on LinkedIn, you know, I will reach out to, again, folks in the sales department and when I'm ready, reach out to them and send them a sell sheet or a video. As far as how much you can make, you probably already know this, it's roughly 5%. Mind you, it's of the wholesale price. So if there's a product that's on store shelves for $19.99 and the company you licensed it to sells it to Walmart at $9.99, you're going to get 5% of the $9.99. But mind you, it's Walmart, and you're going to hopefully do so much volume that it's still going to be, you know, substantial. So licensing is a great route. I'm going to let the experts talk about it. I'm sure you guys are already familiar with Steve and his team at InventRight. I've watched all their YouTube videos. I've read Steve's book. I've met him, you know, at the National Hardware Show and other conferences, and they're just really a bunch of great guys and girls who, you know, put all their information out on YouTube for free for you to learn from, and they share with you their tips and tricks on how to be a successful inventor to license your patents. They offer mentorship. There's a fee for that if you kind of need a little bit more hand-holding, but everything is on the web at their InventRight.com website. So those guys are great. And if you follow them on LinkedIn, I mean, literally every week you're going to see another success story of an inventor in, you know, Middle America who had an idea on oftentimes with or maybe without a provisional, just had enough courage to reach out to companies and was able to secure a licensing deal. And through InventRight, you'll learn things about, is it exclusive? Is it territorial? Minimum guarantees, et cetera. So they're far more have expertise in licensing than I do. So if you decide you're not going to license, and you've decided that, okay, you want to keep pushing forward on this, and it's something you feel you can do, and you have the team around you to do it, you kind of have to now decide: are you going to use your own money, or are you going to raise an angel round? And so that really depends on your financial situation. But these are the questions that I ask myself, right? If I did want to raise an angel round, who would I reach out to? Who would I reach out to now for some seed funding? And then who would I reach out to after I have a working prototype? So I kind of break that list up. And then what's the valuation? Am I willing to give up 30% of the company for $5,000? And then I end up having to work 60-hour days while that person takes 30% of the company for having just written a check for $5,000. So you got to come up with a valuation and realizing you're going to get diluted every round. So if you watch enough Shark Tank like I have, you realize you want to take money as late as possible, hopefully be cash flow positive and never have to maybe even take money. So these are questions you need to ask. And is it a loan or an equity? I mean, unfortunately, these days, with the economy the way it is, it's very inexpensive to get a loan. So maybe these days it's better to get a loan than to break off a chunk of your company. And then should it be more of a partnership instead of giving up equity? Maybe you partner with someone that has the skills that you don't. And I'm not saying it's a 50-50 deal, but maybe 80-20 or what have you, and you bring that person in to kind of help. So if you can't afford a SolidWorks engineer to do the CAD, maybe you partner with that person, and together you're kind of a team, as Steve Jobs and a Wozniak. You're the creative side, and your SolidWorks engineer is the Wozniak side. So partnering is a great way. One thing to consider, and I've talked to enough inventors, and it's happened to me several times, is, man, there's nothing worse than losing your friends and family's money. Maybe there's others of you on this group that's happened to, but I have a couple craters in the ground, and I know exactly how much I owe each of my cousins and my brother and my parents from previous endeavors, and it doesn't feel good. So just, it's almost better to, ask money from strangers than maybe friends and family. I don't know. The other thing to ask yourself is, and this is what I did, I got a little bit amount from multiple people versus a big chunk from one person. Because my brother and my cousin, they don't care about the 2K anymore. Whereas if it was 10K from one person, it might have been a little bit more sticky. So, if you want to pursue your idea and you're short of cash, these are the things, you got to ask yourself. And then, do you want smart money? Do you want someone who's going to give you the money and also help you? Maybe you don't want smart money. Maybe you don't want this person telling you how to do your job because you deep down feel you can do it better. And maybe you do what I sometimes do, which is, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to use my own money, but I'm just going to take longer. In the case of Tilted, I'm on my 3rd year of that phone holder. Why? Because I didn't want to drop, I didn't want to quit my job, or I didn't want to raise a ton of money up front. I'm just going to do 2 hours a night. 2 hours a night times 365, that's 700, 800 hours that I can dedicate to it. So nothing wrong with a slow burn, and then et cetera. So that's what you got to ask, because what's coming up next is we're getting into prototyping, and depending on your product, it can start getting expensive. So one of my inventions was something called Balanced, where I literally, this one kind of hurt. I went through there's 80 prototypes in that bag. I think it's 22 grams of polished tungsten. You can kind of see it here, that you would attach to the back of your eyeglasses. And it kind of takes the pressure of the eyeglasses, and it makes your eyeglasses lighter, your sunglasses lighter, by attaching these small decorative tungsten polished weights to the back of the stems of your sunglasses. It kind of lifts the glasses a little bit off your nose. So that's one that I spent a lot of time on, but I just couldn't get past certain issues of it was grabbing the hair when people were taking their glasses off. It was, if I made it too light, it didn't work. If I made it too heavy, it was causing, headaches. And so that's one that I had to cut loose despite going through 60 prototypes, because I didn't feel I would get 5 out of 5 stars on Amazon. And so that's what I'm always thinking about is, on Amazon, am I going to get 5 out of 5 stars on this? Or is this something that's so kind of personal that some people would love it and then some people would hate it? Because you want to build something everyone loves. And weights on the back of sunglasses, there's too many variables. The size of people's heads and short hair, long hair, do they mind how it looks? So anyways, I cut that loose. Point of the story is I needed an engineer, right, to do the CAD. And if you get to that stage, the going rate might be around 125 an hour. Make sure they have their own 3D printer, and kind of interview them, right? Interview them and ask them where they buy their parts. If they say places like McMaster or Industrial Metal Supply, they're a tinkerer too. They can help you with the prototyping. They're not just going to send you an STL file and say good luck. And so, anyways, you definitely at some point, whether it's injection molded plastic or what have you, you're going to need a CAD file. And so hopefully you've figured out where the money's going to come from. Hopefully you've interviewed your SolidWorks engineer and he's going to give you CAD that can then turn into prototypes. In the case of Tilted, my phone holder, which you can kind of see here, I've gone through maybe 40 prototypes. First there was this little thing that sticks out the bottom of your phone and it didn't rotate, closed. And people were saying, well, I can't put it into my pocket. It sticks out. So then I had to work on what kind of lock I use to rotate it. And then some people said, well, it's too big for my pinky, or it's too small for my pinky, or, I hold my phone with my left hand where my pinky, when the phone rests on the pinky, and some people hold it with their right hand. So point of the story is, and I think many of you have gone through this, it's a freaking grind. It's going to be a long road. And you may want to consider, to Keith's point, licensing. Now, for me, this is fun. I love working with my CAD guy, Robert. Him and I, we're BFFs. And yes, while he still charges me and it runs up a bill, we have fun prototyping these, 3D printing them, showing it to people, capturing their feedback, and then iterating, doing it 40 times. So for me, it's fun. It's what I do out of pleasure. If for you it's not fun, like Keith said, licensing could be a really good route. Next slide. And so, after you've gotten, after you've done 40 iterations or 60 iterations, or maybe you'll get it right in 3 iterations of like a working prototype, something you can hand to someone and not tell them, oh, be careful, it's going to break, or allow them to take it home, or let them really use it. It can be rough, but they have to be able to touch it, feel it, use it. Then I go back to group ABC, right? I go back to those 3 groups, which I've now combined because I'm going to show them all, over drinks or lunch, my prototypes. So at the bottom, you can see the prototype from that Tooth Fairy doll. So me and Robert, my SolidWorks guy, we went through many iterations on how to get the teeth and the notes to fit inside the tube, and a child has 20 teeth, so that's 20 tubes. How big is this doll? Where do you keep the paper, the pencil? How do you make it look cute? Anyways, so, and then there's other inventions that I'm showing here, a sports towel, a sports bottle, and then pressed, which we talked about, is something that are these metal rods. You just slide one rod out, it splits into 2, and you put one in front of the shirt as it's hung, one behind the shirt, and they snap together, and it tugs on your shirt, and it gets the wrinkles out. So anyways, point is, once you've gotten your prototypes complete, you got to go and show it to people. And there's only a couple areas here where I put things in red and I underline it, and this is one of them. The whole reason you prototyped is so you can listen to people. And in the case of Tilted, it was a user that told me, hey, you know what, it would you got to get this thing out of the way. It was another user that told me, why don't you cut it this way because my pinky would be more comfortable. So you really have to listen to your users, and sometimes what they say you follow up on, and sometimes you don't. So this is where it takes talent to know how much are you going to pivot. So anyways, after you've done the user studies, actually funny story, I invented a pair of, actually I shouldn't say invented because my patent came back denied because it was prior art. So I thought I had invented a pair of flip-flops that, yeah, they had holes in it so the water would drain away, but that I knew was already done. But what I thought was novel is how you can take the two flip-flops and then slap them together, the bottoms, because there were a pair of magnets in the soles. And that way, when you throw it in your suitcase or your gym bag, the bottom of the shoe doesn't dirty up your clothes. Because that was a pain point for me. I just wanted a pair of shoes that the dirty bottom from the gym or the hotel didn't touch my clothes. And so, yeah, here I am in the 24-hour fitness with these flip-flops that I 3D printed, and I got to get people's feedback. And, I had to go up to people in the public showers and say, hey, what do you think of these shoes? So my point is, if, you're gonna have to put yourself out there and talk to people, and it could be extremely awkward in some situations to get feedback from your ideas. I don't know why it's, okay. So the next thing is, after you've gotten feedback and you've iterated and you've improved it, it's time to get a quote. A company that I like, again, I don't get incentivized from InventRight or in this case, Platform 88, but a company that has always done me right is Platform 88. Myself and the CEO, Jacob, are now good friends. He lives in Santa Barbara, and they sign NNNs, so, non-compete, the N for NDA, and then the non-circumvent. So if they improve your idea, they can't then patent it. So NNN, so they'll sign an NNN, and their quotes, I believe, are very reasonable. As hard as I tried to make, my products in the USA, it unfortunately, especially with the tooling, it was just significantly cheaper elsewhere. Hopefully that will change. But Platform 88, they quoted my flip-flops at $8 grand for the tooling, and then I'm sorry, $1,500 for the tooling, and then $4 a pair, but in very low quantities. So now I have a product that when I tested it with users, they love it, and I know it's roughly going to be in low quantities, $4. So now again, I can decide whether I want to pursue it further or license it or what have you. So then the next thing I decide to do, if I decide to, I'm going to keep moving forward, is I like to kind of start building my tribe. If I've decided that, yeah, these flip-flops are cool, the people at the 24-hour fitness are telling me they like it, and people I'm showing these flip-flops to seem to love it, and they're like, that's clever, that's genius, I want one, where can I get one? Then I kick off my Instagram and I build a website. Right on Strikingly, you can build a website for $8 a month. You can create an Instagram account for free, and I just start to kind of build my tribe. There's a company website called Instagress where it kind of can help you attract followers to your Instagram, where it goes and it comments on people's pages and it likes their posts just to help you get some attention. And so, yeah, it's a bot. Maybe I shouldn't do it, but it's just kind of a way to start getting eyeballs on what I created. And if people see it, they like it, they will follow. If they don't like it, no problem. But I like to start building my social media. The other thing the other thing that's important is, and if you've watched enough episodes of Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful talks about this all the time, is you got to know your customer acquisition cost. And so now that you have a prototype, one that you can photograph, then what I like to do is I like to kind of run some ads on Instagram and just start to slowly get an idea of how much is it going to cost to get someone to A, come to the website, which is my CPC, and then B, for them, how many people does it take to come to the website before someone buys a product, my CAC, customer acquisition cost. And so right now on Instagram, I think it's $1 to have it serve your ad in front of like 300 people. So, you know, based on those numbers, you can kind of start to figure out what your customer acquisition cost is. So in the workshop, we actually go through this rather deeply, but I'll go through it quickly. Here you can see that I ran an ad and it showed it to 4,500 people. Out of those 4,500 people, 66 came to the website. And then on using the Facebook pixel, I can figure out how many bought because of this ad. And so you just got to do the math to figure out if it makes sense. So if I spent, what have you, let's say if I spent, you know, $10 and it got 66 clicks to the website and one of those 66 bought, my customer acquisition cost may be $10. And that could be high, that could be low, it depends on what you're selling. But that's, I start doing this in the process. And then there's tools you can use to optimize your ads. So PicMonkey and PickFu and AdEspresso are great tools in order to kind of figure out which ads are converting better. And again, it could be your ad isn't getting enough interest, or the ad is working, but when they come to your website, they're not buying. So there's two places where you gotta be focused to maximize your marketing dollars. And again, it's another good point for me to pause and you know, in the process and go through, do I really now want to make 1,000 of these? Do I want to drop the money on tooling? Do I want to work with, let's say, Jacob at Platform 88? Do I want to, you know, spend maybe 10, 15 grand on making 1,000 or 2,000 of these? And so I kind of revisit, you know, the strategy of, is this online where I get the, you know, the retail price, I get the lion's share of the profits? Is this a wholesale product where people kind of need to touch it, feel it, hold it, where I got to sell it for, you know, half of what I would if it was retail? Or do the numbers just not make sense and it's time to go back to licensing? And so, and mind you, don't feel that because you made a prototype and you came all this way, you wasted your time. I've worked with a lot of companies that have been interested in licensing my products, and a lot of them actually just want something almost turnkey. They love how it's patented. They love how it's been user tested. They love how, you know, they have a product that they can touch and feel. And so from my experience, you're more likely to get a licensing deal if you've done more of the work than, hey, I just have an idea and then they have to do it all. So point is, step 14 is another check. Now that you have some more experience with your customer acquisition cost and customer feedback, do you want to pursue it or not? And in the case of my phone holder, it passed every single test. People liked it at stage 1. People loved, they loved the branding. They loved the prototype. They loved the customer acquisition cost was good because my ads were converting. The website was semi-converting. That's the one part that's tricky is the feedback I got for the phone holder is people want to see it in a store so they can touch it, feel it, hold it. So my phone holder might do better in stores than it will online. So that's the one downside of something where you're saying it's comfortable. Well, how do I know through a website that your product is comfortable? I want to touch it. So, so then packaging. Packaging is another thing that if you decide to, you're going to go to market, you got to work on it. And so in the case of Aryabal, you know, I designed it in such a way where it passes the 15-foot test, where from 15 feet away, a child will see it and they'll be like, it'll be a pattern their mind hasn't really seen before. They're like, wait, it's a soccer ball, but why is it split in half? And then what's that inside? And then what is this red ring? So when you package your product, it's a big part of it. And again, if you watch Shark Tank, Lori always talks about this. She's like, I'm gonna have to redo your packaging. Packaging is key, obviously, if you're gonna sell it wholesale into stores. And in the case of Tilted, you know, I thought it'd be cute if the packaging for my phone holder looked like a phone, and it describes what it is. There's an endorsement in the front, and there's a call to action that says, hold me. And on the back, there's more information. So if you're gonna go to market, you gotta do your packaging. I like doing my packaging myself. It's fun for me. You may need to, you know, hire someone. And again, there's on Fiverr or 99 Designs, there's a lot of places you can go to where you can get assistance. It doesn't have to be as expensive as you think. And then, you know, your provisional is going to expire at some point because might already be a year into this. And so this is when you got to consider if you want to do a utility patent or not. And, you know, the same way there's great patent attorneys in San Diego, I'm sure there are some in Arizona as well that love working with inventors. So my suggestion would be don't work with a big law firm, right? Work with someone who they're kind of scrappy like you and understand your situation and are willing to work within your budget. My only word of caution is, you know, realize that after you file the patent, you know, there's going to be fees at the 3rd year and 8th year, I believe. Those aren't too much, but in order for your patent to get approved, it may not go through the first time. There might be, you know, a 101 or, you know, office action items. And so the attorney needs to spend time on those office action items. So that could also be another couple grand. So
Yeah.
put that into in your estimates. So great. You've come all this way. You have your quote on your product, your customer acquisition cost seems kind of favorable. People are clicking on your ads. You've got it protected. And now it's the beast, and I've been through it once, and I'm going to go through it again, I think next month, is when you do your crowdfunding, which is, you know, you make a video, you throw it on one of these 2 websites called Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and you're basically taking pre-orders. It's a fantastic platform for inventors. I'm sure you've already heard about it, but it's a way where people will buy your product before you have to do your tooling and your manufacturing. So if the quote from your manufacturer is 15 grand for the tooling and the first set of inventory, you would set, let's say, your goal on Kickstarter to 15 or 20 grand. And if you raise the 20 grand, perfect. The crowd has funded your idea. It's a beautiful platform. It democratizes product development, where the best ideas can bubble to the top, and it's not a matter of like how much money you have or don't have. And some of these Kickstarters break $1 million. And if you look at their video, it's not even that glossy. It's not even that like impressive where they spent 7 to 10 grand making a video. It's literally like the guy and his wife with an iPhone, they shot a 3-minute video, you know, of their product, but the product is compelling. And they raise their 15 to 20 grand, they kick off manufacturing and tooling, and then they deliver the products to the customers. And, you know, from my experience, because my first Kickstarter, it was successful in that I raised the 36 grand I needed, but then I couldn't deliver the soccer ball, so I had to refund the money. But the point is, the crowd was very forgiving because they understand being an inventor, product developer is a risky road. If you're interested in Kickstarters, there's a great podcast that I listen to religiously by, he's now my friend, Roy, Art of the Kickstart, from a company called Inventees. And Roy just gets the best speakers to come on his podcast and just give you all the details of how they were successful and the mistakes they made. So I highly recommend Roy's a podcast. And then there's other companies you can work with. I also recommend LaunchBoom. Great bunch of guys here in San Diego that if they like your product, they will test it and they will then take you on and help you, you know, break 6 to 7 figures. They've done a lot of big campaigns. So has a company called Inventees Partners. Someone came up with a USB cable that had magnets every 5 inches. So your long USB cable, you could coil it really nicely. They broke $1.5 million selling this USB cable. One of those like, why didn't I think of that? And so with the right product at the right price point, with the help from the right marketing team, and this is where I recommend maybe you do work with one of these guys, because some of these guys have lists 3 million names deep of people that on Kickstarter that have bought products before. And so they can reach out to this audience of 3 million to say, hey, here's this new tech gadget because you like tech gadgets. And it's incredible how many people that, you know, I'm seeing breaking $1 million on Kickstarter with a clever product and then help from one of these guys. So From what I've heard, some are reputable, some are not. I haven't worked with any directly, but I do watch every week. Launch Boom has a great podcast, and they just seem like a great bunch of guys, and I've only heard good things. Great. So you've done your Kickstarter. You did, let's say, a 45-day campaign. I did a 45-day campaign for Aryaball, raised the 36 grand, and now you pull the trigger with whomever your manufacturing partner is. You place your first order. And again, mind you, there may be issues along the way. In the case of Tilted, the little cushion, here's Tilted right here. This little cushion was a little bit too it's not soft enough. So we're working with them to soften the cushion that you would, put your pinky on. And the lock is supposed to flick more easily, and it doesn't, but that we're fixing. So as long as you're confident that only small issues remain, it's fine to do the Kickstarter. And once it's successful, you then place your order, if you will. And then you need to do some quality control. There's places where you can do quality control. I personally wouldn't outsource my customer support. I would rather hire some really, smart and energetic high school kids or college kids who can do the customer support. They can just have an app on their phone and they can answer the calls for me, but they're people that I can train who understand the product, who love the product, who are part of the community. So they're, Zendesk, and there's a lot of other good companies that can help you with customer support. So to wrap it up, you've done your Kickstarter, you've raised your money, you've taken that money, you've kicked off manufacturing. You now have product in an inventory. You deliver the first set of products and you pray that they love your invention, that you got it right. And, hopefully if you did enough user testing beforehand, you did. And then post Kickstarter, there's a great platform called Indiegogo On Demand, where basically most Kickstarters will then, because Kickstarter is a 45-day campaign, they will then put it on Indiegogo, which is another big platform where people love to buy cool new products, never seen anywhere before. And you sell on Indiegogo On Demand, and you just rack up those sales. The guy that did the USB cable, I think he did 1.2 million on Kickstarter and like another 400,000 on Indiegogo. Once he kind of tapped into the crowdfunding crowd, he then started selling it on his Shopify, or in my case, Strikingly website, his e-commerce site. And then you go to Amazon. And then if you've really done well through this whole process, there's a great company called Start Engine, whereby you can actually start selling equity in like $2,000 increments, actually even $1,000 increments, to people that love your product. So if, let's say, you sold 2,000 of, let's just say, the phone holder on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, later on through Start Engine, those happy customers can become investors. So it's really a great platform. You guys should kind of take a look at it. If you have a successful product, it's a great way to kind of sell equity. And then you just got to sell, right? Amazon SEO is huge. There's some great sources here that'll help you with Amazon SEO. Google SEO, right? If you type in, gifts for dog lovers, because you have a product for dogs, you want to be on the front page of Google. So there's great SEO there. Trade shows, fantastic. If you watched every episode of Shark Tank like I have, it's incredible how many people have said that, their breakout moment, or when they really started to get sales, was when they packed up the car, throw their stuff in the van, drove out to, whatever, sometimes it's Vegas or whatever, and they set up a small little booth, a small booth, and they just started showing the world, the people interested in that area, in that area of expertise, their product. And so I've had great luck with trade shows. In fact, Aryaball, that soccer ball, got on NBC Today's show as hot new toy because they discovered me at the New York Toy Fair. And so here's, that kind of opportunity was phenomenal. That in and of itself was covered, going to New York Toy Fair, other than the fact that it was just so much fun and et cetera. So trade shows are fantastic. And the Eventbrite guys have a lot to say about this too. So you should watch some of their videos on trade shows. Stephen and they have some great advice. And then bloggers, right? So I have a side project called Life Goes Pop, where we do pop art of puppies and we put them on pillows. And so just by reaching out to bloggers, I was able to get into Star Magazine and Inc. and a lot of other places. So it's incredible how bloggers and writers are looking for interesting stories. And if no one is making pop art of dogs and putting them on big squishy pillows, they'll they'll write about you. You just got to reach out. And then you may also want to consider, and this is something I may do for my baking invention, Baker Buddy on the left, you may want to think about partnering with a celebrity. So I've actually haven't been able to get a hold of Rosanna Pansino. It's, there's many walls to probably get to her, but, through LinkedIn or a friend of a friend of a friend, I want to show her this baking tool that I made because I think it's perfect with her brand of making baking fun and easier for kids. And that's exactly why I made Baker Buddy. It's something you put over your mixing bowl that has a trash can, a recipe holder, an egg cutter, a cracker, a butter cutter, and you can see these 5 measuring wells where you can easily measure, and then that lid kind of dumps into the bowl. So it's one item for all your baking needs, no mess, no fuss. The kids can't overpour. And so for this one, I'm not necessarily going to sell it on Amazon. I'm not necessarily going to sell it on Kickstarter because Kickstarter isn't really about baking items for kids. I just want to work with either Rosanna or Buddy, from Cake Boss, or someone really popular in the baking world, and just have them put their face and name and brand on it. So to Keith's point, it's like a licensing play, but not with a company, with a celebrity. And I think this is my last slide. And again, that pillow business, it's incredible how just through Instagram, I started reaching out to celebrities and saying, I'd like to send you a present, and how so many of them gave me an address of their agent or even their own home, and I would send them these pillows, and they would put it on Instagram and Facebook, and it just drove my traffic through the roof, from, Zendaya to, if you follow UFC, Chuck Liddell and Matt Hughes, if you follow, music, the Jonas Brothers, etc. So, these opportunities are there. You just got to take them if your product's interesting. And there's a video that shows you more. But I think that's it, everyone. I think I've gone through, let me go back to the first slide, or the third slide. So this, I've gone through it rather quickly, I think, hopefully. And these are the 22 steps that I go through. And at any point I would exit. And with Tilted, the one I'm most active on, I'm at stage 17. And hopefully if the crowdfunding is successful, I will then get to, 19, 20, 21, and 22. So anyways, I really appreciate the time, and I guess maybe Laura will open it up for questions.
Yeah, let's see. We need to get out of your screen share. There we go. So we get everybody back in again. I've been watching the chat. We don't have any questions here in the chat, but I think, excuse me, I think I'll kick it off because I've just learned a lot from you. I really have. And a lot that I can share, with our group later for members that were unable to be here tonight. One of the things that I wrote down about 8 different questions here. You brought up some things I've never heard of before, one of which is platform88.com.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of people that I'm sure would, need to learn a little bit more about that, as well as when you mentioned there's something different that you use when you're dealing with China, as far as the non-disclosure. Could you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. For Arya Ball, I reached out to, I've talked to maybe 4 or 5 manufacturing houses. Actually, wait, more than 4 or 5. God, for one invention, But so to answer your question, I'll be specific about Platform 88. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a couple. I've gotten estimates from a couple factories, and ultimately the one that kind of won me over with you know, that the attention they provide, how they work with small-time inventors, how it's an American-run company, but for certain parts, they do that overseas. You know, Platform 88 has really treated me really, really well. So we're going through the process. They've bid on all my projects, and their prices I found aren't the highest. They're not necessarily the lowest, but they're very competitive. And the team they have is really, really dedicated. They use something called, I think it's called teamwork, where you're not just exchanging emails with your representative. Everything gets logged, it's organized. Anyways, it's definitely a place that if you have a product and you have CAD files, you definitely should reach out to them and have them quote on it. And to your point, you know, they sign the NNN. So a lot of factories will do the NDA, but they're not necessarily gonna sign, you know, the third N, which is you've given them a product, they bid on it. During the manufacturing process, turns out that you and your mechanical engineer goofed on something, they solve it, and then they go file the patent. And so with Platform 88, you know, they're there to help you because they know, I mean, Jacob's amazing. You know, they're there to help you. In fact, they'll help you fight the knockoffs because they want to see you successful. They want to see, in this case, Tilted to be the next pop socket. They want that account. And so they are very inventor friendly. And yeah, so I can't say enough about that group and the NNN contract that we signed.
Okay, Robert, we have a question from Henry, and he says, thank you for your time. He also said, All-Star Innovation, he saw it on an InventRight video. They indicated that they will do a consumer research test of a potential idea to vet via a survey to see if the product or the idea is viable. Henry says, is this something I could do on my own? Are there ways to conduct private product surveys, you know, such as maybe SurveyMonkey, or can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So I know some of the folks at All-Star, and Dave from in my circle, they have a really, really good reputation. Some of the kind of the as seen on TV, DRTV companies don't, as Josh, I'm sure, can attest. But some of them have really good reputations. And from what I've heard, All-Star is definitely one of the top ones. I've submitted a lot of ideas to All-Star and they've passed on all of them. So if you're fortunate enough, Henry, I believe who asked the question, if you're fortunate enough to submit an idea to All-Star and they like it, run with it. Because, and this goes back to Keith's point, if a giant like All-Star who, you know, from what I understand, talking about money, the most amount of money you can make is with the online, is with, if you will, the as seen on TV, the big companies, the Snuggies, the what have you. And so if they'll take you on, that 3 to 5%, given the volumes they do, could be tremendous. And so while I didn't submit Tilted, maybe for selfish reasons, because again, I want to go on the journey, you better believe I submitted the Baker Buddy, the Tooth Diary, and a bunch of other ideas to All-Star, and they're very selective. And you know, hopefully one day they will pick up one of the ideas and do that survey, and hopefully it'll pass that survey. And if it does, then you know, then you could be one of those success stories that you read about on InventRight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we're probably going to have All-Star on also, but there are some parameters, you know, that they look for that, you know, make it a good product for their format. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, usually when companies like All-Star and there's others turn you down, they often don't tell you why, just because they get so many submissions every day. It's not like they wouldn't want to tell you, they want to help you. So to be honest, Laura, it's a little bit of a black box to me as well. But what I do know is they like products that have a broad appeal. And I think with the Baker Buddy, when I submitted it, I did get some feedback, and they weren't really sure if this was, if it's just for kids, then I don't know. there's
Yeah.
so many check boxes you got to check off. And if you don't hit all 10, they don't, rightfully so, they don't want to kind of take the risk. So my idea, and as Stephen from InventRight says, there's some inventors, which I think are great, who come up with ideas like 5 a week, and they just come up with really cool ideas, hopefully cool, and they submit them. I'm a little bit different. I'm a little bit more, I go deep versus more depth versus breadth. But I got to tell you, a lot of the breadth inventors are quite successful. They don't spend as much time with the patents and with the prototyping, and they don't spend 3 years on something. They put together a sell sheet, make a video, submit it. They have a list of companies that they submit to, and they just keep doing that over and over and over again. Or some of them work with agents. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think they have a price point also that's kind of in their sweet spot too. So I think they're kind of looking for those impulse buys that you
Yeah.
don't think too much about, which is, under $25 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which depends upon all of our pocketbooks, I mean, does somebody think about, $25 and no problem, or is it more like $10? But I believe the last time I talked with them, it was probably about $25 retail price is where they kind of look at that.
Yeah.
Let's see, one of the things too, you had mentioned all the trade shows, which now I see they're starting to do virtually. Which is kind of interesting. I'd like to see how they pull that off. There's so many things that we're doing now that we never thought we could do,
Yeah.
that are actually going over well. One of the things with trade shows is, you really do need to be ready for distribution. Do you think that's correct, Babak?
No, you're absolutely right. The trade shows that I've been to, it's like you're there to really take purchase orders. So while it's good to go there and maybe network, those are buyers. They want to buy a product. They don't want to necessarily deal with the inventors. So you kind of have to have the inventory. And in fact, so, for me, especially because I spent so many years in the toy world with the Aria Ball and with the Tooth Diary and the Baker Buddy, et cetera, I'll go to the conferences just because it's for the networking. Right, you go there, you walk the floor, you make connections, you kind of keep an eye out for, like, are the blue badges pressed? And if you see someone with a blue badge, maybe you go to the blue badge. And there's different ways to work the room. But yeah, if you're gonna get a booth, it's there to sell. You got to have the product. It's got to be packaged. It's got to be ready to go. And when I went that one year with New York Toy Fair with Aria Ball, it was really sad because so many came, so many gave business cards and said, contact me when you have inventory, but you want to kind of close the deal. You want to, like, while they're there, there's excitement, they've played with the ball, they like it. You want them to place an order, for that. And in the case of, one toy store in San Diego, I went to Brian, he owns 9 of the big toy stores here in San Diego, and, showed him early prototypes of Aria Ball, the soccer ball with the football in it. And he's like, dude, I could sell this all day. This is amazing. Kids are going to love it. The parents are going to love it. But I got to buy it for $14. So I can sell it for $28. And I'm like, Brian, I can't sell it to you for 14 because my cost landed, insured, warehouse is 12. He's like, Babak, you don't have a business. And maybe I should have stopped there. I kept going, but ultimately that's what kind of did that soccer ball in. Is it's something that people need to see and touch and feel in a store. And if the store wants to buy it for 14, but all that foam and plastic and shipping and handling in the low quantities with a single cavity tool gets you to 12, you don't have a business. Unless you pour, let's say, $100,000 and you do like a family tool, a multi-cavity tool where every time the machine opens up, like 10 balls, let's say, pop out. And so, it's good to go to trade shows because you can talk to people and kind of get those bits of information, things that maybe you didn't know early on. But yeah, it's unfortunate that trade shows are going online because if any place needs that serendipity where you just kind of bump into people or you meet people and kind of have those conversations and kind of network, it's at these 3-day trade shows especially the smaller, more intimate ones, not so much like CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, but like these smaller, intimate shows, the value that I've been able to pull out of them has just been tremendous.
It is. It really is. And like you said, just, walking the show to understand and network and everything is so valuable. I only have like a couple of things here, and then I'm going to scope over everybody again to see if there's any more questions. One of the things you had mentioned, Babak, is that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
PicMonkey? PicMonkey?
Oh yeah, PicMonkey. Yeah, PicMonkey is it's a website where you can go to and you can upload, let's say your ads. You can have different versions of your ads, and then they'll run those ads, and then it's kind of like crowdsourced data of which one of your ads is converting best without you having to spend money on Facebook. So it's just like a really quick way of, literally, should I have the font this big? Should it be yellow? Should it be blue? Should the words be above the product, below the product? What's the call to action? And so it's just a way to inexpensively test your ads and kind of start figuring out which ones, people are most responding to, versus, like I said, it's about $1 for every 300 people you want to show an ad to on Instagram, which is, more expensive. So yeah, PicMonkey, and there's a couple other companies on that one slide that are fun to kind of play with and have different offers, different trials. But
I'm gonna check that out. That was great. I never even heard of that before. So I have learned so much. Just personally, I've learned a lot from you. Some of the things too that you've mentioned so many things, and a lot of people will think, if I'm going to license my product, do I really need to know all this? And one of the things I try to really make impressions upon people is, even if you do want to license your product, go ahead and find out how much it's going to cost, to manufacture it. Do all your own homework. You need that information. Bring that into a potential licensee, because the licensee is going to look at you too. How much homework have you done? They're going to be marrying you, so they want to know that you do your homework. You have evaluated this. You do think it would go on the market, and that kind of stuff.
And it's true. And then there's like different licensing companies. One like All Star. They'll take ideas kind of really, really early on. But like if you have an idea that's not a good fit for All Star, let's say it's specifically a toy, and let's say they pass, and then you're going to start calling Mattel, Hasbro, and the other, let's say 10, 15 big toy companies. For me, it was shocking, like how much work they expected me to do. And it's like, guys, I want you to run with it. I want you to license it. But they wanted to see the patent. They wanted the prototype. They took the prototype to the park. They were kicking it. They were using it. And it's like, some companies, even big ones, Mattel, Hasbro, they wanted to see it all. They wanted to see so much more work than others. So All Star, they'll even take ideas, let's say on a napkin, but other companies, who are equally big, if not bigger, expect the inventor to have done so much more. And I think to your point, you don't just to get a quote from Platform 88 is valuable, because you might be surprised how inexpensive it might be. The other thing is Platform 88 and some of the other companies, they may help you design the product as well. So you can work with them even if you kind of do have a napkin drawing. So it doesn't hurt to call these companies and say, hey, I'm looking to bring this to market. And if they feel like it's a product that actually has legs, they'll work with you. They'll spend the time in giving you the quote, and then maybe kind of putting some resources behind it. It doesn't hurt to ask. You don't have to spend, like I did, 60 iterations, over 2 years to build something.
Okay. I'm looking over the chat too. And Kermit, I'll get to you here in just a second. I wanted to there's a question here from, I believe it's Forth, and I'm not familiar with you, Forth, but he does have a question here that's very specific, I think, to his product. It's an interesting question. Also, there's a couple other people that would like for you to share your contact information again. So fourth, I want to ask you if you will email Babak with that specific question, because that is, such a an area that most of us don't know much about, and I think Babak would be able to help you individually on that. So Babak, will you share your contact information again?
Yeah, I just typed it into the chat box. So it's babak@brilliantcompany.com. And then I also check my direct messages on Instagram as well. But yeah, I'd be happy to, answer any questions that I can. I did read Forth's question.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we can talk more.
Talk offline. Okay, and Kermit, did you have a question? You have to unmute yourself, Kermit. Not yet. Go up, Kermit, go up to the top right-hand corner of your own screen, your own image. I'm trying to unmute you, but
Unmute.
there you go. Okay, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
Uh-huh.
Barack, you said something about if you have a CAD designer, he doesn't do the 3D printing, get somebody else. I've got a CAD designer who's also a product developer. I'm pretty satisfied with what he's done, but I've got a product and he has a 3D printer, but he says this product needs to be done with a 3D printer that's going to cost over $100,000. So he sends it out. The product coming back is costing me about $400. That sound all right to you?
Yeah, it does actually, Kermit. I think it's true. So, there's different 3D printing technologies. The ones that most people use if you just want to print some plastic like a vase or what have you, it's the FDM technology. And those printers are like, under $1,000. And that's why like a SolidWorks engineer, mechanical engineer worth his soul would at least have one of these on his desk to print simple parts from. But yes, if you're printing parts that are very high detail, very fine, not necessarily miniatures, but parts that have very tight tolerances, then yeah, the FDM printing won't work. You need, SLA, a different type of printer. It's a liquid bath with lasers, and again, depending on the size, certainly some of the printers can get to 100 grand. And yeah, I've printed parts that have cost me $400, and so I'm very careful. That I've done as much as I can with the cheaper printer just to kind of get some of the mechanics or size, weight, whatever kind of worked out. And then, yeah, to your point, the fine printing, fine detailed printing can be $400 depending on the size of the object. Now, mind you, there's a lot of websites you can go to upload what's called your STL file to get it printed. Maybe I'll type some of them in the chat box, but Shapeways is one. Another one is Voodoo. You're gonna have to Google it, Voodoo Printing. There's another one, Shapeways.
Okay, can you guys see, can everybody see that in the chat?
No. Do you click on chat?
Yeah, go down to the bottom of the screen and the icon that says chat. Click on that.
Okay.
Okay, and Babak, I'm not seeing your question come up. I mean your chat.
Oh, it says it's me private to Thais. Hold on, I need to go here. Let me change it to the group.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I was messaging Thais the whole time. Probably.
That's
We were
okay, I've
chatting
done that.
before. So let me really quickly. This is my email, which I thought I had sent. So that's the email, and then places where you can go to get quotes, just to make sure that you're not, overpaying. Shapeways is one. Voodoo something. Voodoo Printing, I think, is another one. There's another one that it escapes me that I've used in the past. But if you Google it, you'll see there's a lot of companies that will quote you on the spot how much it costs to print. You just got to make sure you pick the right printer, as your mechanical engineer said. So usually the expensive printers are the SLA ones, and so if you pick that, you want that level of detail, yeah, it could get into the 400s.
Okay, second question, on molds, I've got a local company that's given me a quote. I'm not very satisfied with it. What's your recommendation there? Does that company that you mentioned, 88, do they do that? Platform 88?
Yeah, absolutely. P88, reach out to them. Jacob's the owner. You can tell him Babak sent you if you like. And especially, it sounds like you already have the CAD, and they'd be more than happy to kind of give you a quote. Some of my molds have been as inexpensive as $5,000 for something, let's say yay big. But then other molds can be, it depends on the size, the number of cavities, and something called sliders. And so it's hard to kind of give you a ballpark price because I don't know what your product is, but definitely reach out to Platform 88. They're the ones that I trust the most and have very competitive pricing.
Okay, thank you much.
Yeah.
Very useful listening to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm scoping through here and I don't see any other questions. So I think this is, really a good time to wrap up. And Babak, I wanted to tell you too, we have gone even more over because of so much interest in what you're, the information that you've shared with us. I think I've learned more tonight than I've learned in a long time from one of our speakers. So I'm not kidding. This is wonderful information for me to bring back to my group too.
Thank you, Laura.
So,
I appreciate the kind words. That's nice of you to say. I mean, I read your background. You've been doing this for a while, so to hear that from you means a lot. Thank you for that.
well, thanks. We have a good group and you're welcome to join us. And you and I can talk offline another time, but thank you all for being here tonight. If there's any other questions, and let's just go ahead and give them a hand. Everybody give them a hand. So, a fellow inventor. Okay, thank you, Babak.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
They want to get your slide deck. You're going to send that to me. So
I'll send it to you right now. I'll convert it to a PDF, and I'll
Okay.
send it right now so you can share it with the gang.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Shout out to Arizona.
Okay.
Thanks for representing. It was a lot of
Thank you.
fun.
Good night.
You guys are
Thank
awesome.
you. Good night.
Good night.